Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We were waiting on some people to come in, and we have 23 participants on right now, but 69 enrolled, so we were kind of waiting a little bit for people to start rolling in. So if you want to go in the Q&A box and just kind of put in where you're from, that would be interesting to see where you all are coming from. Oh, greetings from Montana. Hi, Kevin. And we have Lorraine Lewis, who is our research specialist here at AIANTA. Donna Chimera. And I had a couple in the chat box. Oh, good morning to Gail. She's one of our employees as well. Bend, Oregon is here from Heidi. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining us. I was just going to wait a few more minutes. It's 10:02. I hate for anyone to miss out. So we're at 26 that are logged in right now. Kodiak, Alaska. Good morning, Nina or Nina. Thanks for joining us. There's someone else here from Oregon, Washington area. She says, good morning from the Columbia River Gorge. How beautiful. And then we also have Melanie from Golden Meadow, Louisiana. We have someone here from, oh, it said hi all. I thought it said Hawaii. Let me just give it a couple more minutes. We're up to 30 and we'll just start at 5 after, and then they can just join us when they come on. So I hope everyone out there is staying safe. Let's see. Okay, we're up to 32. So we can get at least half. That'll be a good start. And my name is Sherry Bowman. I'm with AIANTA. Been here 11 years. I am now working as the education event specialist with the office here. So this is my second webinar as a host. And I'd like to, I'm going to go ahead and start with this introduction here. We have 32 and hopefully they'll keep joining us. So I'd like to again say good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the American Indian, Alaska Native Tourism Association's Tourism Marketing Resources webinar. My name is Sherry Bowman, and like I said, I am AIANTA's Education Support Specialist, and today I will be serving as the webinar moderator. For those of you that are not familiar with AIANTA, we are the only national organization that defines, introduces, grows, and sustains American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors traditions and values. We provide tourism-related education to tribes across the United States. If you have any questions during this presentation, please type them into the chat box in your control panel. I will facilitate the questions and answers at the end of each presentation. So with that, I'd like to introduce Chris Seek. He is our first presenter this morning. Chris is the CEO of Salomar International, and will share his insight on restarting and rebuilding tourism in a time of challenge and change. He will also look at how how marketing to the future can help you restart tourism to your destination and reimagine what you want tourism to look like. This webinar will also explore the importance of content development and photography as a marketing tool and how to market your tourism attractions on lewisandclark.travel and nativeamerica.travel. Let's welcome Chris Seek.
Thank you, Sherry. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to have a chance to share some insights into not only what's happening with this COVID virus with tourism, travel and tourism, but more importantly, what we all can be doing in order to help strategically reemerge our travel industry. And so we're going to take you through a couple slides on that, and then we're going to have a chance later on to hear from Dan Wiley over at the National Park Service and Bruce as well, who's working on this project with the Lewis and Clark that we're excited to share with you about. So just to go ahead and get started, AIANTA asked me to give just a kind of a backdrop of what's happening right now and what are some recommendations for tribal nations to think about how to restart and reimagine your cultural tourism product. And so today I'm going to cover three main topics. First, I want to touch on what is the U.S. travel impact from COVID-19. Then we're going to go into this question everyone wants to answer, which is when will the travel industry recover? And then what should tribal nations do to support recovery? So if we start first with this, what is the U.S. travel impact from COVID-19? You'll see here on this graph from the U.S. Travel Association, they work together with a firm called Tourism Economics, and they basically are predicting a 45% drop in visitation and travel spending. That's both domestic and international in 2020. So as you can see in this graph, travel and tourism obviously was very important and growing year after year until this year when we really hit this unprecedented impact to our travel industry. So we're seeing a drop across the board, and a lot of this revenue probably came in the early part of the year before the stay-in-place orders were made. But they also are predicting a very strong growth return starting in 2021. And then you can see this over the years here. So let's go ahead and take a look now. U.S. Travel Association frames this as not just the economy that was going through a recession, but the travel industry is really in a depression. We've never seen anything like this. They've estimated that travel-related job losses represent 38% of all job loss that happened through April, more than 8 million jobs. We also are now experiencing almost 51% of the travel industry is unemployed. That is 2 times the worst year of the Great Depression. And if we look back at 9/11, the year after 9/11, we saw a $57 billion decline in travel spending and a total economic loss of $133 billion. But if we look at just this year, because of the pandemic, we can see that these numbers are way higher. We've $519 billion loss of travel spending decline and a total of almost $1.2 trillion in economic loss as a result of this. So 9 times worse than 9/11. So they're rightfully saying that this is indeed a depression in the travel industry. Now, the benefits, or the positive, we should say, is that if we look historically about shocks that we've had to the travel industry, starting from when the Asia Pacific during the SARS pandemic, that dropped very strongly. But as you can see in this graph, it recovered pretty quickly. And same thing in 2008, 2009 with the financial crisis. The drop happened very quickly, but then it also recovered quickly as well. And the reason for that is travel is one of these sectors that really benefits from pent-up demand. So if you had a vacation planned in the early part of the summer and you had to cancel that, you most likely have postponed that. You may have changed. Maybe you're not getting on a plane. But the thing with travel is that we have this pent-up demand. So as soon as we're able to travel, we immediately want to go ahead and do so. And so this brings us up to our next question, which everyone wants to know, is when will the travel industry recover? And the reality is we do not know. And this is why we're recommending to destinations to think about scenario planning. This is a slide that McKinsey Company put out that basically kind of helps businesses and governments think about the various scenarios that could take place here. And if we look at this sector on this axis, we see on the positive side a rapid and effective control of the virus spread, all the way down to a failure in public health interventions and the virus taking off. And you can see what that does in those different scenarios. And then likewise, on these scenarios, it looks at the different economic interventions. So whether or not these are ineffective or highly effective. And so if we have a highly effective economic intervention and we have a control of the virus, we can see this type of recovery. But as you can see here, we might have a failure to contain this with ineffective interventions, and then we could see a recovery like this. So every destination should be thinking about different scenarios and thinking about what travel and tourism is going to look like when it does return. A lot of people are under the kind of the understanding that the recovery first will happen with people just leaving their house and going out to local restaurants and shops. I think everyone probably has experienced this themselves. As soon as we feel comfortable, we're going out into our immediate communities and going out and spending money in those communities, whether it's picking up food and bringing it back to our house or actually spending time in eating at these restaurants. That's the first that will recover. And we as destinations and destination marketing organizations can actually play a role in helping facilitate that. Next is people getting in the car and taking road trips, just getting in the car and taking a day trip, going out and just getting away from their quarantine home and just getting out into mostly nature. From there, we're starting to see overnight and to a nearby destination. I actually own a small bed and breakfast that's about an hour and a half in Washington, D.C., and we're experiencing tremendous business right now because everyone is coming out and wanting to just get out of the city and to visit a nearby destination. And so we're benefiting from that right now. Next, we expect, and especially over the summertime, this shift to week-long drive vacations. This is going to be the summer of the road trips. RV rentals are up 600% right now. People are looking at ways to replace that maybe flight to Disney World and instead getting in the car and going on road trips. And so that's a great opportunity for many of the tribal nations. Then from there, we see national flights following from there, people starting to feel comfortable getting on a plane and flying to other destinations, followed by international flights. And then lastly, meetings and conventions. And I know a lot of people are very disappointed that the AIANTA convention this year is going to be virtually, but that's just the reality that it's going to be a while before people feel comfortable getting hundreds of thousands of people together in one place. So this is kind of what the expectation is of the recovery. The good news is that if you follow the news, and this is something I do a lot of, is that the travel industry tends to be in the news a lot lately. And it's almost seen as a bellwether to kind of showing that we're moving into a phase where people are going out and traveling again. And so that's positive. Obviously, flights and international travel is going to take a little longer, but it's great to see the media kind of starting to talk about travel and what that and how that also creates demand for travelers as well. Now, when travel does return, it's going to look much different than it did before this pandemic. So from taking temperature checks at airports, some airlines like this airline in Dubai is actually taking COVID tests right there in the airport terminal before you get on a plane. Once you get on the plane, the flight attendants are going to look very different than they used to look like. This is what Qatar Airlines are looking like, their flight attendants in complete hazmat suits. If we look at China and we look at how they've reopened, we start seeing some things, and it's really designed to instill consumer confidence. If consumers are not confident that they can go out and they can visit businesses without getting sick, they're not going to do so. So a lot of businesses are taking steps to try to create that consumer confidence. This is a place in China where they actually stand and you get disinfected before you enter the restaurant. In this restaurant, they give you, when they seat you, a bag to put your mask in while you're having your meal. This restaurant here, they actually come out and disinfect the bowls and utensils right in front of you. A lot of restaurants are moving to contactless menuing systems. So instead of providing a menu and ordering off the menu, people are shifting, like in this company here, to letting visitors use Instagram to order. We've shifted our business to allow our clientele to be able to order online as well. And in some places, you're even seeing robots delivering food. And here in Germany, they're putting up these spit guards between the bartender and the patrons to keep the staff safe. And you see this in a lot of places, not just in the hospitality industry and gas stations. You're also seeing them inside of restaurants. So again, making people feel comfortable going back out and eating again. Not sure how effective this would be, but it shows you the creativity that people are doing to try to create that confidence. And this one was really ridiculous. Cafe in Germany requires its patrons to wear these hats to basically enforce this social distancing, which looks a little ridiculous. And but again, doing whatever you can to try to make people feel comfortable going out and eating and spending time and money in the destination. So now the question is, what should tribal nations do to support recovery? And what we're recommending is a three-step approach. First, you need to respond to the crisis. Second, we need to restart your tourism economy. And then third, we're recommending to reimagine tourism. So what do we mean by this? Well, first, with respond, it's important to really follow the health data and the health and safety regulations in your community in order to promote the safety regulations. So if your tribal nation has created a stay-at-home order, as the tourism industry, you need to be supporting that and providing that information to visitors as well. In addition to that, there also needs to be a lot of support for testing and tracings. What we're seeing among any destination is this goal of really trying to make sure that testing and tracing is available so that, again, that people feel comfortable visiting destinations. And then, of course, assisting tribal businesses access finance and grants. There's been a lot of money made available through this Travel Cares Act. I'm sure many of you have heard of this, everything from the PPP loan, but also the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This just reopened up not even 2 weeks ago, and I was able to apply for that, and I was able to access a $100,000 loan for my small business, and that was really important for me. And so, again, many of you can provide support and assistance to your tribal businesses so they understand how to access these loans, because it's not easy. But then, of course, we want to think about our employees in the tourism sector. What type of social safety net can be put in place to ensure that they're taken care of during these times? Obviously, our artists and musicians are not getting the gigs that they used to get when travel and tourism was happening in your destinations. So what types of programs can we provide, and what support can be given to them as well? And the other thing for response is we got to remember that we could be here. This is the graph of the 1918, 1919 influenza. This was kind of the early kind of wave, and then it came back the following year and it was much higher. And so a lot of people are saying that we're going to see spikes. So what happens, and what are your plans in your community to deal with those spikes, and how are you going to learn from what's taken place in the last 6 months in order to be ready so that when spikes do happen in your community, you're able to respond to those? Now, thinking about a more positive note, let's talk about how do we restart the industry. The first thing that's important is to really provide guidelines to your tourism businesses to help them understand what are the cleanliness and safety regulations. What should they be doing in order to make sure that their staff and the guests are going to be safe when they visit the destination? There's a lot of great guidelines that have been produced. This is one by the American Hotel and Lodging Association. We use this for my bed and breakfast as a way to train my local staff so they understood what new regulations we had to do in our business in order to make sure that we're improving our cleanliness programs. Other destinations have created certification programs. So in Portugal, the tourism industry has created this clean and safe program where if businesses follow the protocols that have been established by Tourism Portugal in collaboration with the health agencies, then they receive this certification and they can put that in their windows. And so again, it creates that consumer confidence that this business is actually doing more than they were doing before COVID in order to keep people safe. Some destinations like Turkey are actually created COVID-free certificates for specific destinations, again, trying to create that confidence. World Travel and Tourism Council is the largest tourism association. They've gone one step further, not only of creating these guidelines, but they've created their own certification program. And this could be something that AIANTA potentially could do in order to basically help tribal nations show that there is in fact a certain protocol that's been established in the tourism industry within each tribal nation, and that they've received this certification to provide that confidence to the consumer. Now, the next is to think about marketing. And one of the things that we're recommending for any tribal nation is to really think about partnering with your state tourism offices and your local DMOs. They have marketing budgets. They are going through the same crisis as everyone is. They are looking at what they can do to restart tourism in their destinations, and they're all shifting their marketing spend to focus on that drive market and really getting people to go on those road trips. And so they need to know how, if you're open for business or not. So working with them to let them know how you stand, what you've done in your destination, and also basically piggybacking their marketing efforts in order to help promote your destinations. And then when you get to your own messages, we're recommending you adapt your marketing messages to focus on safety and remoteness. So that's what people are looking for right now. They want to get away from crowds. They want to be, they want to also know that they're safe. So how do you make sure that your messages include these types of important messages to your traveler? This is an example in the country of Namibia, where they're basically making a case that the wide open spaces, the very little populations, and the few visitors is a reason why you should come and visit. And then maybe also consider your protocols for how you will welcome visitors on your own terms. This is an example in the country of Bermuda, who basically was very nervous because most of their visitors were coming from New York. And so while the tourism industry wanted to open up very quickly, you can imagine the citizens in Bermuda and the health authorities were not as excited and quick to want to open up. So together they sat down and created these basically protocols and what is expected from everyone. From before you even come to the destination, you have to get a COVID test and show that it was done within 72 hours. You need to have health insurance, you need to wear masks. But then they also require, when you get to the destination, that you have to actually take a test at the expense of the visitor, and they have to be quarantined for 24 hours until that test result comes back. And so that's something to think about as well. I know states are doing this as well. So different states are creating these as their own protocols about what's expected for international visitors. And now the last one we're recommending is to reimagine tourism. Just because we want tourism to return, we don't have to go back to normal. We can use this opportunity to reimagine what and how we want tourism to change when it comes back. So one of the suggestions is to think about how you can strengthen your cultural tourism product. We had a chance last year to visit some wonderful tribes in the Great Plains and saw some tremendous natural and cultural assets that were available for visitors, but they weren't really packaged into a tourism product. There was really no way for a visitor to pull out its wallet and spend money and actually experience those things. We were fortunate that we had tribal leaders who took us around and showed us these places. But if you don't have that packaged into a product as an experience, then you're not going to be able to benefit financially from tourism. So use this opportunity to really think about how to strengthen that product and make sure it's available for people to spend money. And then we also recommending to avoid over-tourism, and doing that by improving visitor management. Many destinations struggle from places where you get a lot of visitation. Maybe it's a national park or something nearby that attracts large crowds. And so how, in this time of social distancing, we need to really use visitor management systems in order to prevent these types of scenes. This is a picture that took place in China. The day after stay-at-home orders were lifted, 20,000 people rushed to this national park. And because they didn't have proper visitor control systems in place, look what happened. This is not a great visitor experience. It's also a health risk in this time of where everyone's supposed to be social distancing. And then lastly, as you do reopen tourism, it's very important to listen to your residents and make sure that you understand how they feel about tourism. Not only before this COVID, maybe they weren't happy with the way tourism was being developed or promoted in the communities, listening to them about what they like and what they don't like about tourism. But also in this COVID world, as you can imagine, tourists are a threat. They could be bringing the virus. And so a lot of residents are not going to be excited to welcome tourists back. So we're encouraging people to really listen to your residents and making sure that you're taking their perspectives into consideration before you open back up. So in summary, we're recommending this three-step approach. First, respond to the crisis, keeping your citizens safe, employed, and keeping businesses going. Then how do you restart the industry safely and strategically? And finally, reimagine tourism to improve that visitor experience and better support cultural values and community benefits. That's all I have right now. There's my contact information. We're going to do questions at the end here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and drop those into the chat window, and we'll answer those at the end. So Sherry, I'll hand it back over to you to introduce Dan.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That was very good. Okay, our next presenter we have is Dan Wiley, and he is the Chief of Resources Stewardship with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail National Park Service. He works to protect cultural, natural, and recreational resources of the trail. So let's welcome Dan Wiley.
Well, thank you, Sherry. Yes, I really want to emphasize one point about what Chris had made, and that is that, you know, you get to decide. We have developed this website, lewisandclark.travel, that you can post your locations and your venues of all types on, and you get to control that content. We here at the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail administer the trail, and it's a partnership trail. We don't own any of the land. We have partnerships galore, and the geotourism program for Lewis and Clark is another partnership program. We focus in this program on the tribes, on nonprofit groups, and private sector partners. And we look forward to engaging tribes and creating a platform by which tribes can tell their stories. Our mission is to preserve the remnants of the historic route and allow for better visitor understanding and appreciation of the significance of the trail. We want folks to be able to have a location by where they can look at what the opportunities are on the trail. And we feel this Lewis and Clark.travel site is really going to be that thing. We're working to get a multitude of folks posting on that, and that's my central message today is for consider putting your venue on lewisandclark.travel. We, as I say, we operate by partnerships. This webinar is being brought to you because we have partnered with Solomar International and AIANTA to bring this information and opportunities to folks all along the trail. It's over 4,900 miles long, and we have lots and lots of wonderful assets, to a point that Chris made about tourism this summer. It's going to be road trips. We have in place an auto tour route for the entire trail, and that is the way people access the trail. Your proximity to that auto tour route provides you with ready-made opportunity for tourism. Geotourism is a tourism that sustains and enhances the geographic character of a place, its environment, culture, aesthetics, heritage, and the well-being of its residents. That's an important point, especially in these times, the well-being of the residents. So you get to decide when people come to your venue. You get to avoid things like that video of people crushed together because there's so much pent-up need to get out. Geotourism also encompasses this range of travel, including cultural, heritage, history, food, nature, adventure, outdoors, water, music, and arts. These are the things you can put on your posting on the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail Experience website, and to enhance people's visitation. Again, geotourism and the National Historic Trail, we're all about partnerships. Please consider coming on board as a partner with the National Historic Trail.
Thank you, Dan. Our next presenter is Bruce Reddick. He'll be putting up his PowerPoint here shortly. Bruce is the travel writer and photographer for AIANTA's Lewis and Clark National Trail Project. Bruce is an award-winning author. His published works and biography can be found at brucereddick.com. As a founding member of Tahoe Writers Works, he served 10 years as publisher of their literary journal, Edge. He served as president of Charter Advertising Design Incorporated for over 32 years. During that time, his duties included copywriting for brochures, magazine ads, and websites. Most of his projects featured his photography, and with a degree in fine arts from the University of Colorado and an emphasis in photography, he has captured strong images for his clients. He has worked with the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute Tribe, Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Eli Shoshone Tribe, Washoe Tribe of California and Nevada, Stewart Indian School, Nevada Indian Commission, and Nevada's Indian Territory. Let's welcome Bruce Reddick.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate the introduction, and hello, and thank you all for joining us this morning. As Sherry mentioned, I'm the AIANTA travel writer and photographer for the Lewis and Clark Project. And today I'll be talking about marketing opportunities on NativeAmerica.travel and LewisandClark.travel. Chris's presentation had some great information about where we're at now and how travel will change in the future. And I'll be talking about what you can do right now for your tribal tourism and tribal businesses through this Lewis and Clark project. I'm proud to be part of the project, and it continues AIANTA's strong tradition to support cultural tourism in Indian country, and is working with the National Park Service and Solomar on this exciting new program to market tribal attractions along the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. This effort actually expands on the groundwork and contributions from the Circle of Tribal Advisors of the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial Commemoration that took place back in 2003 to 2006. The Enough Good People book honored all those who made tribal involvement in the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial possible and successful. And in addition to the Enough Good People book, our outreach coordinator, Gail Chihak, also co-authored the book, Native Peoples of the Northwest, A Traveler's Guide to Land, Art, and Culture, and this book was published in 2000. Building on all these efforts, we're excited to feature and promote the new Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail Geotourism Program, and we're offering new opportunities for tribes to continue to share their stories to visitors from around the world through cultural tourism. Now, cultural tourism continues to grow, and visitors from across the globe still seek unique and meaningful experiences. There continues to be a huge interest to learn about the history of this country and its Native American culture. I'd like to take a couple minutes to introduce you to the AIANTA team that's working on the Lewis and Clark project and a little bit more detail about how the program works. This is Sherry Rupert, is the CEO for AIANTA, and will actively be reaching out to tribal leaders during this project. Most of you already know Sherry, and she'll be accompanying us on several of our site visits when we can get out and travel. We'll be meeting one-on-one with a lot of tribal leaders when we can get on the road. Sherry is the former executive director of the State of Nevada Indian Commission and also managed Nevada's Indian Territory, the state's official arm for promoting Native American tourism. She also created and produced the annual Nevada Tribal Tourism Conference for more than a decade. She's a former president of AIANTA's board of directors, and she was instrumental in the passage of the Native American Tourism and Improving Visitors Experience Act, or more commonly known as the Native Act. The Lewis and Clark outreach team also includes Gail Chihak, Hannah Peterson, Lorraine Lewis, and myself. The mission of our team is to reach out to tribes and tribal enterprises along the Lewis and Clark Historic Trail and then help them market their businesses by listing them on LewisandClark.travel and NativeAmerica.travel. Gail Chihak is AIANTA's outreach coordinator, and as mentioned, she co-authored the book Native Peoples of the Northwest. Her experience includes working for 10 years in Washington, D.C. for the Native Congress of American Indians, the Morning Star Institute, and the Indian Arts and Crafts Shops. She's a Klamath Indian tribal member, served as president of Indian Art Northwest, and she was also editor of Northwest Indian Magazine. Hannah Peterson is AIANTA's development director and works to advance the mission of AIANTA through strategic fundraising and program development and has extensive experience in both of these areas. She was raised in Anchorage, Alaska, and received a degree in English from the University of Washington, and a Master of Public Administration from Hamline University, Minnesota. Lorraine Lewis is AIANTA's Research and Data Specialist. Lorraine is a member of Laguna Taos Hopi and attended both the Institute of American Indian Arts and College of Santa Fe. Her professional experience includes working in economic development and the nonprofit sector, and she currently serves on the Institute of American Indian Arts Foundation Board. Lorraine is an award-winning artist and a small business owner. She's a huge supporter of Indigenous arts and culture. And a little bit about myself. As Sherry mentioned, I'm a published author and many of my pieces have won awards. I've also written for travel and tourism projects for over 30 years, having owned and managed my own tourism marketing agency. My photography was used in most all of those projects, including websites, brochures, magazine ads, and social media. And over the past 15 years, I've specialized in tribal tourism, mainly focused in Nevada. The main Nevada tribes are the Northern Paiute, Southern Paiute, Western Shoshone, and the Washoe tribe of California and Nevada. On this slide are a couple of examples of work I've completed for Nevada's Indian Territory, including their main marketing brochure and website. And these projects were supported by the Nevada Division of Tourism. I've been involved with AIANTA for several years as a member and also attended several of their conferences. And I've always been impressed with their work, and I'm very excited to be a part of the team. Here are a few more samples of some of the work I've completed over the years and kind of the methodology I've used. These projects included work for cultural centers and museums, tourism destinations like Pyramid Lake, where world record cutthroat trout have been caught, tribal enterprises like the Washoe tribe, and I also designed educational books to teach and preserve the native language. Most people imagine nothing but desert and casinos in Nevada, just nothing but sand and neon, but there's a lot more to it than that. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of uncovering. I've learned that some of the things in your own backyard that you don't think about are often the most interesting for travelers. And I'm taking that same approach in helping to find sites of interest along the Lewis and Clark Trail. So it has a strong focus on story and place and has that geotourism center. This is how we're approaching the project. We're researching and identifying tribes and tribal enterprises adjacent to the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. And since we can't travel right now, we're making calls to the tribes and tribal enterprises in order to learn more about each one. We'll then work with tribal contacts to tell their stories and highlight what they want to share through visual and written content. The work we complete and the content we develop will be used in a variety of outlets. Content will be included in blog posts, social media posts, listings, blurbs, itineraries, guidebook articles, and news releases. Digital content will include photography and video wherever appropriate. In addition to the content being used in the media outlets mentioned, the two big drivers, of course, of this project are lewisandclark.travel and nativeamerica.travel. These websites complement each other, and with dual entry points, they provide strong online visibility. A little bit about Lewis and Clark. The Lewis and Clark expedition has such a rich heritage, and we want to highlight the tribal side of the story. Part of Lewis and Clark's mission was to build strong relationships with all the tribes they met along the trail, and they presented each tribal leader with a Jefferson Indian Peace Medal along with other gifts. The coin was engraved with the image of Thomas Jefferson on one side, and on the other, an image of two hands clasped with the inscription, Peace and Friendship. And there were several Native American scouts. Sacagawea, of course, was the most well-known, but there was also Pierre Cruzat, who was half French and half Omaha Indian, and George Julliard, who was French, Canadian, and Shawnee. So there were several Native American scouts on the expedition. This project includes tribes located within 50 miles of the trail, but we also want to include tribes who historically had territories on the trail and were encountered during the expedition, have since moved or have been incorporated with tribes away from the trail. So there's some flexibility with that designation. In addition to providing some historical background, the main thing we want to do is feature what the tribes have to offer today, what today's traveler can see and do, and what the tribes want to share and promote, an effort grounded in, again, grounded in geotourism. This is how the landing page for the lewisandclark.travel will look, and we'll be going live soon. We're already accepting nominations for listings. As Dan mentioned, now is the time to get your information on the site, so we continue to build a strong web presence with a lot of robust information about tribes along the trail. As you scroll down the page, there's a download link for the Enough Good People book, which I had mentioned, which shares the experiences and work of the Council of Tribal Advisors during the bicentennial. And then farther down near the footer, there will be featured tribal destinations, and these highlighted destinations will rotate on a regular basis. The site is easy for visitors to use and find information, and travelers will really appreciate having all this information available all in one location. Now I'll spend a few minutes introducing you to nativeamerica.travel. Nativeamerica.travel is the first destination website promoting tourism in Indian country. It works as a consumer guide as well as a business guide for tour operators interested in adding native sites to their tours. The site divides the country into 12 regions. Here's a map of the regions. The images link you to destinations and experiences for each of these areas. Every tribe has a complimentary page, free at no cost. So again, this is a free service that is offered through this website. Navajo Nation was one of the first tribes to sign up, and what's kind of cool is notice that the banner at the top of the page includes a tribe seal, and that's a real nice feature for each tribe. Each tribal listing has a web link, contact information, and also a nice GIS map. At the bottom of each tribal page is a set of links where the tribe can add tribal enterprises, events, native-owned businesses, and non-native businesses which have received tribal approval. Each listing has a link to their page. For business lacking a web presence or those that are trying to get more traffic to their existing site, this is an excellent promotional tool. Here's one of the local businesses Navajo Nation includes on their listing. The tribe approves of any of the native-owned or non-native-owned businesses included on their list, so it does have to have tribal approval. Each page has a link back to that main tribal page. The regional pages also include a drop-down list of all the tribes in that region and the corresponding states. This is all really very easy to use and very intuitive for visitors of the site. If you click on a region like this one for the Southwest, it leads to a page with featured experiences and destinations. For this region, there's a banner on the page that leads to a map of the Southwest experiences. And here's the map. The map then has different icons. You can see all the little icons on the screen. It lists accommodations, attractions, and experiences like outdoor adventure, agritourism, which is really important, history, and arts and crafts. Of course, the site's also an excellent place to list cultural heritage sites open to the public or special events like this horse racing event, which has been at the top of our page view statistics for several months now. Or just natural wonders like Rocky Mountains or historic sites. Anything tourism related that your tribe would like to promote and highlight can be listed on this site. It's also a perfect place to share itineraries. Here's the American Indians and Route 66 tour AIANTA developed with the National Park Service a few years back. And here's the northern part of our FAM tour in the Northwest. The map is similar to a Google map you'll notice on the lower right with pinpoints to indicate areas of special interest. Again, it's all very user-friendly and intuitive. I had mentioned itineraries, and itineraries are very important. Travelers like to know where they can go, what to see, and how long it might take. If you need help putting some of these itineraries together or input on ones you already have, we can help. Just feel free to reach out and ask any one of our staff. It's super easy to create a listing on nativeamerica.travel. The sign in and sign up link is on the top and bottom of every page. So it's real easy to open up an account. And also here there's a booking widget for Fair Harbor, which works really well. And if you need, it's a fee-based program, and costs can be requested directly from Fair Harbor. Next steps and how to get started. The main thing is you can start now. We've got the time. I know it's hard with travel being shut down right now, but people are looking for information online. So it's a great time to get all of the information on Lewis and Clark Travel and Native America Travel. Take some time to learn the system. It's real easy, but we're always here to help. Or just send us your information and we'll put it together, draft up content and run it by you, and also help you upload it if needed. You know, leverage your time and try to do them at the same time, both sites at the same time. There's a nomination process for lewisandclark.travel, and listings for Native America.travel are reviewed before going live. So again, now's a good time to start. Also, reach out and get your tribal enterprises involved. Get them excited about the program. These sites are excellent free opportunities to promote their businesses. To help out, I also created and wrote a tip sheet for writing and photography. This tip sheet summarizes what we're looking for and how to create good, strong, engaging content. I often refer back to it myself when writing descriptions or reviewing images. You can kind of think of it as like a roadmap. It's a good thing to review and as you're writing and looking for things to promote for your destination. And you can download it at AIANTA.org/storytelling. Pretty easy webpage to remember, and when you go to this page, it has a lot of other useful information and a lot of resources. AIANTA has a lot of resources to help you out in your marketing projects. And of course, your best resource is the Anta team. We're happy to help you set up your page on both lewisandclark.travel and nativeamerica.travel. So feel free to send us what you have and we'll do the work. Also feel free to reach out with any tourism marketing questions you might have, and we can point you in the right direction. So this is our contact information, and just again wanted to thank you for joining us today for the Tourism Marketing Resource Webinar and an overview of both lewisandclark.travel and nativeamerica.travel. I look forward to working with all of you along the Lewis and Clark Historic Trail and helping you tell your story and promote your destination, and we encourage your participation and look forward to helping you with your marketing efforts. I hope to see you on the trail someday soon, and right now I'll turn it back over to Sherry.
Thank you, Bruce. And I'd also like to thank all of our presenters for providing us with valuable information on marketing partnerships and resources. We will go ahead and take questions now. Just as a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the chat box on your control panel. And I know I said Q&A, but either one will work. It looks like we had just one question so far, and it's been answered online. And it was from, find it here, from Kevin, I believe. She asked Dan if he was talking about an app or referring to the website lewisandclark.travel. And he was providing that, and I'm through the chat. I'm sorry, I have to scroll down here. Chris answered that question for her, referencing that Dan was referring to the lewisandclark.travel website, and that is also mobile friendly. And he provided the link, which again is the lewisandclark.travel/places to go, tribal lands landing. It's all here. I can forward if any of you are interested. And do we have any more questions here? I don't see any more questions. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to email myself. Wait, excuse me. Here is a question from Ricardo. And can Chris share some of his slides regarding the impacts? Yes, we will have all those slides posted to our website. If you do have additional questions, though, please feel free to email myself or any of the panelists at this on this page, contact page here. And my email is for Sherry, Bowman, BOWMAN, at AIANTA.org. And I can, refer your questions out to one of our panelists as well. And then we will also be posting all the slides on the AIANTA website, and we'll send a link to your email addresses. Our next webinar is scheduled for July 7th on ways the U.S. Forest Service and the USDA support cultural heritage tourism. That link is available on our website if you'd like to register. And again, I'd like to thank everyone, and we appreciate you being here today. Have a great day. Hold on, I think I have one more question. Oh, that might have been the one we answered. Yes, that was it. Everyone is very thankful for these presentations, by the way, presenters. So everything looks great. Yes, we do have the link for the next seminar posted on our website. Just go under aianta.org, what we do, and then click on webinars. So again, thank you all, and I appreciate you being here. Have a great day, and we will see you at the next webinar. Take care.